Success Engineering, and I would like to introduce our team that we have here. We have Jess Swaim, Joe Cantu, and David Betts with Greenwise Technologies, and I want to tell you a little bit about us. Um, oh, got to get the clicker right. We started Success Engineering in 2016. I have about 8 years of experience in this industry where I have some engineers behind me that have 25 plus, and that's who we lean on the most. My part is mainly behind the scenes. I do all the business side. Um, I do the contracts and trying to keep things straight. We have two offices. We have one in Jordan, Texas, and one in Helotes. And we have a staff of 11, and we are continually growing, and we want to keep growing and doing what we need to do. I want to turn the time over now to one of our senior engineers, Jess Swaim.
Well, good afternoon. As my lovely boss noted, there's a couple of us in the firm that have quite a bit of experience. We're municipal engineers. I've been doing this line of work for about 24 years now. It's really flown by. I'm from Tilden, McMullen County, small school, as many of you may know of. There's a few of us clapping out there, a few Tildenites here to support us today. Been doing a lot of work down there for them. I graduated from Texas A&M University in 2000, so I heard some hisses too earlier. Not for you, Travis, or nothing like that. So yeah, I'm an ag engineer, environmental specialization. Got my PE license in civil engineering, and I've been doing municipal work ever since then. We're really excited. We just finished our new office construction in Jourdanton, and we've been working out of Helotes. So it's been nice. We do a lot of different municipal things: roads, drainage, water, sewer, solving problems. That's what we do. I'm going to turn the time over here to Joe.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Joe Cantu. I'm from a little further south in Tilden, so I'm from Laredo, Texas. Actually, I was born and raised down there. So moved to San Antonio, went to University of Texas San Antonio. Don't know if there's any road runners in the house, so there's a few of us. There you go. Been in the business for about 18 years, worked in both municipal and development, and so got quite a bit of experience. So we worked in the region, San Antonio, Central, South Texas. So that's kind of a little bit about myself, and I'll hand it over to David.
Good afternoon. I'm not from Tilden or McMullen County. Actually, I drove in from Houston this afternoon, and it was a bit dicey. But I am, I guess, 2 generations back is from Alice, Texas. So, I mean, that's kind of, same, right? Went to the University of Houston, been in the industry for 18 years, really cut my teeth in low-impact development and green infrastructure. I grew up on the coast, down in the Freeport area. So coastal issues are issues that are near and dear to my heart. So it's nice. Many years later, got the opportunity to really drive what's considered green infrastructure in a place like Houston, where they don't really, give much care as to how the water runs into the bayous and the bays and the estuaries and the oceans. So we've been at it for about 18 years, worked on a lot of fantastic projects all over the state, a few even here in y'all's own backyard. So I think I continue on. Yeah, here. You mind if I take control? Yeah, thank you. All right, so we got a couple things we're going to hand out, some questions we're going to ask. So one of them is, does anybody know what low-impact development is? Multiple choice. If you get it right, you get a prize. A, construction process that adds only concrete or other hard armor structures to solve drainage problems. B, design that increases flooding and runoff. C, a way to provide communities with an ecological sustainable water management solution that positively impacts their budget through creativity, innovation, and collaboration. Or D, less stressful way to implement clean water solutions for the community and city staff. Okay. C, hold on, drum roll. It's correct. So Back there? Back in the back? All right, good deal. So I want to start off by just introducing, what is low impact development, and I want to show you guys a project specifically in Harris County. We work with a lot of municipalities on implementing these types of design strategies, and really understand why a municipality might want to do that type of design. A lot of times when you guys hear green, you think Tesla, you think curlicue light bulbs, you think more cost, more expense, longer ROI. But when it comes to drainage and stormwater management, that's generally not the case. Most of the time, there is a ROI that really impacts detention volumes and water quality and right-of-way, those sorts of things that can be of value. And I want to show you one example that really set Harris County off on a path to doing more and more of these types of roadway projects, as well as the city of Houston. So why low impact development? These might be some bold claims. You may think these are bold claims, but reduce construction costs, reduce maintenance costs, safety. How could it provide more safety, right? Practice what we preach. Cities and counties are more frequently talking about doing things that are green and implementing, things that are green, but how can you really work it into CIP projects? And then proof of concept. So this particular project was a 3/4 mile roadway stretch called Burnhamwood Drive in Spring, Texas. Just to kind of give you an idea of the cost savings, and we don't go into a bunch of pictures and things here, but I want to give you these were 2011 prices. Essentially, there was about a 7% cost reduction per mile, or $192,000 in savings on that particular roadway. And essentially what we did was we removed a detention pond that would have been required for floodplain mitigation, and we worked it all into the right-of-way. Instead of having a crown center median, we had a inverted center median where we could handle the 100-year flood within the inverted center median. Not completely different than what you would see on any DOT project between here in Houston or here in San Antonio, not a lot of difference. The primary difference was that we used biofilters and bioswales in order to slow the water down, extend peak flows, and decrease time of concentration. Increase time of concentration and decrease peak flows. And essentially what that did was cut our detention requirement in half, so we didn't need to store as much water, so we could fit it all within the right-of-way. I mentioned safety as it relates to that. One of the things that we could do is we could manage the entire 100-year flood within the right-of-way, as opposed to just transferring the 10 or the 25 to a larger facility, which a lot of times would flood the roadway. We were actually able to keep the roadway dry even in the 100-year event. I think we're on to the next. There's a lag. There's a lag between the two.
All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about drainage problems and just a few key projects that we worked on. And so this is one that we did for City of Leon Valley, if you guys are familiar with that. So it's a suburban San Antonio, Texas, small community. They had some issues with this. This is Evers Road, just near their public library, between just north of 410. And so they had issues with this constantly flooding, right? So they had to call a fire truck out, multiple times a year, several times, and so they needed to solve this issue. So there's some other issues that they were having with this. So this was constant maintenance on this thing. So this just to give you a perspective, this is Heavener Creek, and so it has about 8-square-mile drainage area, and so it was this road was just an undersized crossing with basically like a speed bump to this 100-year flood. Do we have the okay? This is what it looked like in a major storm event. So. Okay, so they approached us, and so what we ended up doing was looking at the H&H analysis for this and what our constraints were. So with communities like this, we have a lot of development upstream. So this is, north side of San Antonio. Everything upstream of this is pretty much developed. And so you kind of see the effects of no detention upstream and those kinds of issues. And so what we proposed here was, with a budget of about $2 million, was what can we do to solve their problem? So what we ended up doing was just proposing some boxes, opening it up, and maximizing the conveyance through there. So, And this was kind of the end result of that project. So this is another one in City of San Antonio area. So this is Universal City. This project had some serious erosion control issues. And so what we ended up doing is extending some culverts in this area, redoing the head walls, adding some permanent erosion control measures here. Okay. Another thing that we do is trail projects. We work with City of San Antonio and other communities. And so we like to incorporate a lot of the LID products that David talked about. So anything from pervious pavement to pervious asphalt and bioswales, those types of products. So, excuse me. And just to get some of you guys involved, does anybody here have a drainage problem or issue that they can share that maybe that might be able to be solved with some LID solutions? I think I saw a hand go up somewhere back here. Anybody?
Yes, ma'am. You mind telling us about one of them that you'd like to solve?
Let's call it North Beach has no drainage. Sure. Well, go take a drive real quick.
Is there any rain around? Yeah. Jamie, if you don't mind, we have a little something for you just for participating. We appreciate that. You know, as Joe's been going through the problems here, the next thing that we're going to talk about is implementation. And Joe, if you don't mind, if you'll just operate the clicker for me, I'm just as comfortable down here as I am sitting back there. When you talk about all these problems, when you look at it, the project that Joe showed you in Leon Valley was about a 9 square mile drainage area. It had about 4,000 cubic feet per second of water flowing through there. And that was the solution for that case. The things that we do now as engineers have changed a lot through the times. And so we're trying to, as you can see here, slow the water down, spread it out, and let it soak in. Because if it does that, it doesn't get downstream, down gradient as fast, obviously. And so there's a lot of different techniques and methodologies. This is one here for a parks project in the city of San Antonio. We try to do things green. You know, there's different committees and everything there that we run everything through. In this park project, again, we try to slow the water down, let it soak in. This one here is over by Leon Creek, is where that's out. Joe, if you don't mind going ahead to the next one. I did this project about 12 years ago. I was with a different firm at the time. I was working and part of about $180 million project on the San Antonio Riverwalk. And in this little area here, we had some ponding we just couldn't get rid of. And this is actually where I met David. Came into play. That's why I invited him here to be with us today and talk a little bit. In teamwork in this, we designed this trail over this area off Mulberry by the zoo. And underneath here, this area would always pond, but we really didn't have a way to get the water out of the area. So what we decided to do was capture some of it underground. So Joe, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So we excavated out in there, and we create baskets, and then we have select fill and materials that go in here to help the water infiltrate, just so we don't have a mosquito bed. Because you know, as water goes to standing around, we have our little buddies. So we do that to try to help get rid of this water. So you can see the basket, and then we have another drain filter there. But Joe, go ahead and go to the next slide. So just if you took a cross section of it, we have a special soil media that goes down. And there's different ways and different processes now that you can utilize. And you know, after this presentation, if you have further questions, David helps in marketing of those type of products. But you can make these things look natural, get some of the proper vegetation. As engineers, we work with all different type of landscape architects, geotechnical engineers, and experts in the field that help us to prepare the proper subgrade. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is just another a section. The one that we used on the project I just showed you a moment ago, we got from David. I just call them milk crates, is what they look like to me, that were underground, but allow that area to hold that water as it soaks down. So it's also filtering, which is good. You can go ahead and go to the next one. Now this picture here is in Tilden. I'm a graduate out of about 17 kids out of Tilden High School, small school. And I go before commissioner's court all the time. I'm about every once a month or so. Jared can attest to that for me. But so the commissioners have known me. I'm 50 years old now. They're probably about 70, and they've all known me since I was in kindergarten. They all, everybody knows each other down there. And so when I start talking about LID to them, they're scratching their head. And when we're talking about drainage, I do a little bit of training and a little bit of learning too, because everybody's got a different way to solve a problem. When you go into a county, you don't want to just go in as a know-it-all. You want to go in to help solve problems. You do bring some fresh ideas, but it really is a teamwork situation to solve a problem. And so in this case, we're working on the courthouse. For those of you who've been around the Tilden courthouse and in McMullen County, we've redone all the roads. We put the first subsurface system in Tilden within the past year and a half. We've done probably about $6 million worth of roads, doing another 6. And we've pretty much redone all the county roads. But here, right around town and in Tilden at the courthouse, we did LID. We did put in a subsurface system that if you see the white pipe laying on the ground, that's going in the ditch that's being lined with plastic. So as the water filters down, it goes into the pipe and then filters down to an inlet, which then goes into the subsurface system, which flows to the Frio River. But we did this as well as a parking lot. You get oil and other different types of chemicals and stuff that may come from a vehicle or something like that. So you have an additional filter system to help clean the water a little bit. The way I look at it, everything helps. It's just like reduction of the flow. If you reduce it enough, you may not have the big flows and you may not have as big of a piping system. So you do a little bit at a time and it adds up. It's kind of like eating an elephant. So this was one of the construction photos. Joe, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So after we get it all covered up, you can see some of the filter media there. There's different ways you can do a lot of plantings. You can also do like a xeriscape type of project to help keep costs down. In this case, the judge, go ahead and go to that's one of the contractors. This is almost final. We don't have vegetation or anything along there. I think we've got some river rock and stuff now. That's the way the judge wanted to go there. But you can see we have the shade structure for the employees. And so as the courthouse is back over on this side and the water runs off down, percolates into the system, goes out, and then goes to the outfall in the Frio. So that's how that winds up working out. Go ahead and go to the next one, Joe. So as you can see, there are a lot of different applications, and we appreciate you speaking up for a project. I think we can all find one around that might need some creative type solutions. So with that, we would like to open up, see if there are any questions here for us today. The problems that we see? Well, as this young lady here noted, there's always a localized type problem. Smaller communities like McMullen County, Tilden, Callaham, Jourdanton, Balcones Heights. There's a bunch of them that we work for. A lot of localized drainage as well. Small systems are needed to help pick up, solve problems in residential areas. We see a lot of that. We're working on an MPO project for Balcones Heights right now, where we're trying to use LID because the city of Balcones Heights doesn't have a ton of money. I mean, they have the portion that they're getting through the government, through the MPO process. But, you know, it's expensive to come in and put a large subsurface system. And then there's text dot requirements that you have to fall within for paving and grading and drainage. And you have to have dry lanes in a roadway. And so you have to size these systems, but every time you start putting more concrete and piping in the ground, your cost of the project is going up. So what we're trying to do on that project is utilize LID in the median areas. So if there's an area where I'm not always a fan of a reverse crown, there's a right time and a right place for every solution to a project. But in this case, we're looking at some reverse crowns to drain the water to the median area and then let it infiltrate, and then it reduces the amount of inlets that we have. So there's some creative things that we're doing. So I don't know, in the last 24 years, I don't think I've solved the same problem exactly twice. It varies. Everybody has a unique scenario that they're dealing with. Whether around Jordan, Pleasanton, Tilden, I mean, all the way down George West, everybody's got a little bit different issue. I hope I answered it. I don't know.
Jess, I have a question for you. I'm over here.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hello.
I loved the photos that you shared with respect to your project in Tilden. One question that I had about that is that flow is going to the Frio River.
Mm-hmm.
Made me wonder, are there any permitting requirements for these LID projects that would drain directly to a river?
There are not. Right now, there are no ordinance or anything like that. We're just doing it. We do a lot of work. We're doing parks and trails for the San Antonio River Authority, and we've been doing work for City of Universal City, San Antonio. Most of the large cities have implemented processes. I worked David and I worked with the San Antonio River Authority about 10 or 12 years ago, and they had actually design competitions and stuff like that. You remember we were with Karen, wasn't it? And was it Bishop? So we worked with her, and it was kind of training because this is not known to everybody. I mean, are you an engineer? I think you are. We heard you earlier. So, I mean, you're aware of this type of stuff. So there are a lot of people that are not aware of it. And so as far as, to answer your question directly, McMullen County is the free state. So, thank the Lord we can actually get some stuff done around there, to be honest with you. We move pretty fast, but I mean, anything, put it this way, compared to just putting a pipe in the ground and flowing it out, like I said, it's like eating an elephant. A little bit at a time makes an improvement. And if we can clean up, maybe get some of the metals or contaminants out of there, then we're doing people a favor downstream, all the way down here to the coastal region. It's just the same as, I'm a city engineer, so I also do a lot of reviews for wastewater permits, stuff like that, trying to keep the sanitary septic tanks and stuff like that, keep them out of a floodplain, things like that. There's just a lot of training and a lot of thought process that's, coming along in the future. But as far as Tilden, we really didn't have any processes or regulations or anybody, I mean, there were no submittals to the TCQ or anything like that we did, if that answered your question.
Yeah, I was in Tilden both times it rained last year, and it actually worked pretty well. So I'm interested to the little bit for the project you were talking about in Houston where you did the streets. Was that a TxDOT project, a county project? Because that seems like that's a tech. I wish we would spread that out a little bit more. I know when we do the regional flood planning groups, a lot of the flooding issues we have are because of the major highways that are coming through the communities. And so I thought that was a really great project.
Yeah, that project specifically was a county project. We have done a few projects that were led by TxDOT. One of them was Bagby Street that runs through Midtown in Houston. We did another one it's inside the city of Houston. It was oh man, can't remember my streets. You might not know what they are anyway, so I could probably just make it up. But a lot of a lot of them we've been doing have been Harris County. I think we've done 16 roadways for the county. And most of them, almost every one of them, there was a cost saving shown. Yeah, they got a reduction in peak flows. Yeah, they got a reduction in pollutant load. But more importantly, very conservative. Well, a little bit less conservative district now than it has been historically. But in that time, 2011, pretty Republican district, and so cost was a big factor in making those decisions.
Okay. I guess my question, I have a follow-up question that be to you, Christy, with the Region 13 flood planning. Is that a strategy that can be put in that can show for TxDOT when they make improvements in other communities, or how do we spread that information around? I know we've got several members of the flood planning group here today.
So I do think that LID, and also these like nature-based solutions, it's very much so important as part of the toolkit in alleviating some of the flood issues. I think moving forward, having those developed at such a stage that it would become an FMP to be able to get funding to implement is good. One of the challenges I've heard, and I believe in LID, I think that it's really great, but the challenges that come with like maintenance, and some of what we heard through the last round of flood planning for Region 13 is that they have these drainage swales and areas that over time haven't been maintained. And so it's created an illusion that it didn't work, but it did. It's just, if there are programs maybe that the Texas Water Development Board and others can help with as far as ongoing maintenance, I think that would really improve the functionality as it's designed, as part of the projects. Have you encountered those issues and overcome them? And if so, could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So what Harris County had to do ultimately was put together a maintenance team for green infrastructure, and eventually they just ended up putting an RFP out for it, and maintenance companies, landscape maintenance companies, would take care of it as part of a contract. That's what they currently do. That's what they still do. Maintenance is obviously an issue. It should be an issue with everything, although it's kind of one of those things that's out of sight, out of mind. I think in the state of Texas, maintenance is the most misspelled word in the state, so how can we expect to do it right? But the bottom line is okay, so we can continue doing what we do, which is nothing, and we can let that sediment and all those pollutants end up in our bays, and we have to dredge, and we have to muck it out, and we have to pull tires out of the bays. That's not cheap. Actually, it's a lot more expensive to pull it out of the water than it is to pull it out of the ditch. So, it's one of those things that, you either spend the money today or you spend it tomorrow to fix the bay. I've read a lot of reports of this region. This is one of my playgrounds, and about demucking and the oyster population and the fish and the this and the that. It's not going to get any better as long as we develop and we don't take care of it upstream. We got to take care of it upstream. Yeah, it's going to cause a maintenance problem, but it's really easy to get some shovels out and muck out ditches. It's not so easy to take care of it once it enters the bay. So, my pitch.
Hi there. I'm glad that question got asked. It kind of stole my question, but I got another one. So, Nick Dornack, I'm with Doucette Engineering, and just one quick follow up on that. We're working right now with the city of Port Lavaca on a stormwater ordinance, and that's been a big issue with maintenance. One thing we are doing is bringing some communities that have been dealing with lid, development and ordinances and things like that in the hill country, and kind of helping to spread some of those lessons learned and things like that, maintenance covenants and whatnot, where the developer can put those into a covenant and let the city take care of them, or have some kind of contract to inspect and make sure that that green infrastructure is being maintained, or else it won't work. I had a question for Jess. With regard to a lot of the low impact development you're doing in some of these small communities, I think it's fantastic. Just wondering if you had any lessons learned, success stories, horror stories about contractors and construction and getting that done with folks that know how to get it done in areas that maybe it's new to.
Well, I'm really picky on the contractors, to be honest with you. When somebody submits, Joe and I both work together on these projects. So as far as lessons learned,
I can bring up one real quick
Go
because we
ahead,
work with City of San Antonio Parks, so they're really picking. They love LID. Maintenance is their concern, but you have to follow it through construction. So they had some incidents where they were supposed to be putting permeable concrete down. Well, they found out after they placed it wasn't permeable concrete. So those are some of the kind of lessons learned of making sure that during construction, you know, you got inspectors or eyes on the field with that type of stuff. So it does happen.
and to tie that together, Joe's right. I mean, you want a good inspector in the field. You want very good specifications. Your engineer, architect, landscape architect, whoever you've got doing it needs to be present in the job, right? Just always doing things from the office doesn't always cut it. You need to be paying attention, and you need to be watching and checking the product that's placed in the field. And I think that's something that I feel like Joe and I and our team do a pretty good job of. Another thing to bring up, when Joe mentioned the park work that we've done for the city of San Antonio, they had a project that they had built another time, and when you go to lessons learned, the material they used, a very loose gravel that was in the pavers, and that became a maintenance nightmare. After a large rain event, it would wash out. And so now, let's see, on this last one, did we change the pavers? We changed some pavers out, did some different things so they wouldn't have that problem. So as time goes on, people are figuring out there's a little bit different way to tweak a solution. It was a solution to that issue. I know through the years, working like on Leon Creek and some others, we have to do WPA watershed pollution abatement plans, stuff like that. And a lot of times if we are over up there, the Edwards, there's some areas that we can't even use some of these type of procedures. On our park trails, we use a lot of the swales and stuff like that. So there are things, lesson learned. Like I said, I'm really picky on the contractors. Make sure that if you have a submittal from a contractor, that there's a qualification statement, and truly ask them what their resume, have they done those type of projects before? That doesn't mean you can't give a new guy a shot. You have to evaluate that, and your engineer has to make a conscientious recommendation as a representative of your community. And I feel like that's the benefit.
Yeah, one of the other things I'd like to note is that none of this is new. So, this whole concept of low impact development started in Prince George's County, Maryland in like 1992. How many of y'all have an iPhone from 1992? Like no one, right? I mean, this, like I said, it's not new. It's 40 30, 40 years old. So with that, Harris County's had a design and construction manual since 2011. San Antonio's had a design and construction manual, I think, since 13 or 14. So, I mean, all this stuff is old hat. It's just new to areas like this because it hasn't been implemented a lot. What you guys probably don't know, at Gregory Portland Middle School right across the street, there's actually some bioswales over there. I helped work on designing and installing them 2 years ago. So, it's starting to take foot down in this region, and it will more so as you guys look for other ways to deal with some of these drainage issues and design issues. And, and there's plenty of big cities to pull ideas and concepts and construction specs from.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you all very much for the opportunity.